Welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and your local witch next door, and today I'm talking about tarot and owls. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it is for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. If you're interested in my tarot card creation workshop and you weren't able to attend live or didn't register in time, you can go ahead and get the full hour-long recording, my step-by-step method, examples of the tarot cards I've created, journaling questions, and a PDF to walk you all through it for just $33. The link will be in the show notes to purchase that. I'm also going to be offering a 12-week Tarot for Transformation live course this summer. If you're interested, sign up in the show notes for more information on that. We will be starting towards the end of August, so you still have time to sign up and learn more about what we're going to be up to. I have just updated my Patreon benefits to be bigger and better than ever. If you want an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast, join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family at the Lovers level, which is $6 a month. If you'd like to support the podcast even further, you can get a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch Bitch level on the Patreon. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, join us at our next Let's Talk Tarot meetup group event. I just had one this past Sunday where we met at the old hangout in the Tacoma McMinimans and all did some readings for each other, chatted, and talked about our love of tarot, which was very fun. So if you join the meetup group there, you'll get notifications whenever I put out new events. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and more. And if you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist and coach seeing clients virtually all over from my home office. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. If you'd like to work with someone that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, welcome to Season 12, where I'm talking all about tarot and animals. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. I've talked tarot basics. I've gone through all 78 cards in a tarot deck with doing one episode per card. I've talked tarot and pop culture. I went through 13 common tarot spreads, talked tarot and witchcraft, and tarot and plant allies as well. And like I said, here we are in Season 12, where I'm talking about tarot and animals, and today I'm talking about tarot and owls. So I'll go through a description of the animal, some symbolism and animal magic, its relation to the tarot, and more in this episode. All right, so let's talk about owls in general. They come from the order Strigiformes, which includes over 200 species of mostly solitary and nocturnal birds of prey. All of these animals in that species have this sort of like vertical stance, a big broad head, binocular vision, binaural hearing, sharp talons, and feathers adapted for silent flight. There are some exceptions in that: the diurnal northern hawk owl and the gregarious burrowing owl. Owls are divided into two families. So the true or typical owl family, like I said, is Strigidae, and the barn owl and bay owl family, Taidonae. Owls hunt mostly small animals, mammals, insects, and other birds, although a few species specialize in hunting fish, and they are found in all regions of the earth except the polar ice caps and some remote islands. And fun fact, a group of owls is called a parliament, which, how fancy. Owls possess large forward-facing eyes and ear holes. They have a hawk-like beak like other birds, a flat face, and usually conspicuous circle of feathers, a facial disc around each eye. The feathers making up this disc, sort of the shape around their eyes, is helping them to sharply focus sounds from varying distances. Because of they actually have asymmetrical palaced ear cavities, so that allows them to really hear very well. And most birds of prey have eyes on the sides of their head, but the stereoscopic nature of the owl's forward-facing eyes permits the greater sense of depth perception, which is necessary for low-lighting hunting, because owls hunt at night, or, in dusk, and dawn also counts with that. Like I said, they have binocular vision, so they actually have to rotate their entire heads to change the focus on their view. Again, if you think about us as humans, right, we can see pretty far in our peripheral vision. We also have to rotate our head, but to change focus, and their eyes are fixed in their socket, so we can actually move our eyes independently without moving our neck or our head. Owls cannot do that, so that's why they have to have that ability to turn their head all the way around, which is a little unsettling as humans that cannot do so. Owls are actually far-sighted, and they can't see anything nearer than a few centimeters of their eyes, and caught prey can be felt by owls with the use of phyloplumes, which is hair-like feathers on their beak and feet that act like feelers. So their far vision, particularly in low light, is exceptionally good, which again, you probably know. Owls, again, all of this is all of their makeup is sort of created so that they can hunt in low lighting. Most birds hunt during the day. They don't have very good night vision, but owls are sort of the exception to that. I guess others are like bats, but those are not birds. Owls can rotate their heads and necks as much as 270 degrees. Again, we can maybe, I don't know, do 180. Owls have 14 neck vertebrae. Humans only have 7. And again, their whole body is set up so to adapt to allow them to rotate their head without cutting off blood to their brain, which is particularly important when they're doing it for seeing. There are some other interesting things about owls. I'm getting all this information here from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. And there's lots of different kind of owls. Different species of owls produce different sounds, and this helps them find mates or announce their presence to potential competitors. Also, it helps us as birders or ornithologists and locate the birds and their species. The sort of circles around their eyes where it looks like they almost have binoculars on does help owls to funnel the sound of their prey to their ears. And like I said, their ears are actually asymmetrical, so ours are generally symmetrical. They're on either side of our head at the same spot. Owls do not have that, so that allows them to better understand what area, where the direction of the sound is coming from. And owls have a lot of different markings by use of their feathers. And that is part of how we can tell different owls apart. Like I said, owls have this ability to fly almost silently. If you've ever seen one fly, even if like in a zoo or something, it's very quiet. Generally, birds, you can hear them fly if you're close enough, especially large birds. I know for me, when the Canada geese fly over top of my yard as they're during their migration, I can hear them like beating their wings, even though they're quite far up. But obviously owls, since they have this mainly nocturnal lifestyle, and they hunt at night, it's important for them to be able to fly very quietly, because they are also listening, right? And that is how they find their prey for the most part. I guess they can also see to locate, but they're really listening a lot of the time. Let's see. Owls' feathers are generally larger than average other birds' feathers. What else is interesting here? Let's see. So owls, it's not that they use echolocation like bats do. They actually are using their eyes, and again those like asymmetrical ears, in order to listen to where their prey is, but they're not sending out noises again like a bat does in order to figure out the depth perception or where things are. They're using, that's why they have those big old eyes, which again are sort of unsettling to us as humans, because it looks like they're staring at us. And again, they can't move their eyes like in their sockets. They have to move their head a lot, so that's why we see them swivel their head. Yeah, it also helps them, again, those like feathers and moving their head allows them to remain very quiet as they wait and look for their prey. Owls are very cool. They eat, like I said, small mammals, insects, and other things. So they're very helpful in nature to keep down rodent populations. If you are ever so lucky to have an owl visit your property or area or see one, it is very cool. I would say any owl is cool to see. I've had a barred owl visit my yard, and yeah, I didn't hear it fly at all. I was in my greenhouse probably in like October and November. I don't think it was last year, I think it was the year before, and it was dusk. Like I'd probably just put my chickens away for the night. I was in the greenhouse doing some tidying or something, and I like saw the shadow fly over me, and I could tell it was quite large, and it was pretty dark out. Like I said, it was definitely dusk. Like the chickens, most birds are like in bed by that time because they cannot see very well, and so it's to their advantage to be stationary and up high off the ground, things like that, while they sleep, since that is when they're vulnerable. So anyway, I see this shadow fly over me. I'm like, oh, that's like pretty dark for a bird to be out at this time. And then I'm like, oh, whatever. I don't really think anything of it. And then I actually go up the hill, so out of my greenhouse, up the hill, I think, to lock up the chicken's door for the night. I go up there. I didn't hear anything at all. I went up there and I go around the corner to lock the chicken door, to keep them, safe for the night. And I see ahead of me in the walnut tree, that's quite large in my backyard, an owl just like chilling, sitting there on a low branch. This was definitely after I had built my pond, so perhaps they were out there at night, waiting for critters to come out, other rodents and things to come to the pond. Like the pond would be a good place to hunt, most likely. I also live near rivers, so a lot of animals come down to the river area at night and then move back up, more like nocturnal animals. And it was very cool. And the owl was like very chill. Like I said, I sort of went up the hill, I see it, and so I like stood still and just kind of stared at it, and it just sat there for a while. I took a video even of it as it was moving its head around and just kind of like looking at me. And yeah, I think then I went and closed up the chicken area and just kind of went back down the hill, and I think it still stayed up there for a while, but that was very cool. Other than that, I've pretty much only seen owls. I mean, I've seen them in a zoo, certainly, and then one other time when I was out hiking actually during the day, again, like near water, near like a, what would be the right word, like a marshy, like pond, like a wetland area, just in Tacoma. I was there with a friend. We started out on this trail, and it's very wooded and not super well cleared, and we were going probably in off season, so like in more wintry time, and maybe it was also fall. And yeah, there was a owl just like chilling on a branch above us, and we watched it for a bit. That one was more white. I don't totally know what kind of owl it was, and it was daytime, which was very strange to see an owl during the day like that. All right, so yeah, all of that information other than my lovely story came from Wikipedia. Let's talk about some symbolism or animal magic associated with owls. So from the triplemoonpsychotherapy.com, talking about archetypes and symbolism in myth and psyche. They have a page about owls, hunters of the night, owls as symbols of wisdom, protection, death, and regeneration. So they talk about that owls have been depicted in human history for a very long time. They actually say that there's a painting in one of France's ancient Chauvet caves from 30,000 years ago of an owl. It says, with its distinctive appearance, fascinating behavior, and nocturnal proclivities, the owl has captured the imaginations of countless cultures, inspiring a wealth of legends, myths, and enduring traditions, which is very cool. Owls are usually seen as symbols of wisdom, intelligence, and knowledge, owing to their remarkable hunting skills and inquisitive, oversized eyes. The Greek goddess Athena is often associated with owls as a paragon of intellectual prowess and strategic acumen. As a goddess, she was known as the patron of wisdom, strategic warfare, and arts and crafts. So again, all things that owls sort of embody. And her intellect was celebrated as well, and that is something that we really associate with owls, sort of their wisdom and their ability to hunt very skillfully. And Athena is often depicted with an owl, either in the photo or sometimes like perched on her shoulder or things like that. Like I said, the owl was seen as an emblem of Athena's wisdom. As her loyal companion, it embodied her spirit of strategic thinking and intellectual curiosity. The Greeks believed that owls' keen senses and sharp instincts were akin to the goddess's intellect. And the bird's nocturnal habits represented the pursuit of knowledge even in the darkest times. It was said that the owl's hoot was a call to learning. And the owls have continued to be revered as a symbol of wisdom and intellectual curiosity throughout time. They have also been seen as symbols of mystery, magic, or the unexplainable. Again, being like a bird that hunts at night is just more rare. They have, right, even anything kind of associated with the night often gets a mysterious, sometimes dark, shadowy, even like evil connotation to it. Owls have been associated with special powers and abilities over time. They have this sense of otherworldliness. I think a lot because, yeah, they have, so they're out at night. They're sort of elusive. Like, it's pretty rare to see them, especially in like cities or things like that. And they have this like piercing gaze because, again, their eyes are a lot of the way that they hunt. Their eyes are large, and because they have forward-facing eyes, which most birds don't, right? Most birds have eyes on the side of their head. There's just something about it like staring at us, I think, that is like gives us a vibe, and sometimes like a mystical, creepy vibe. In some aspects of Northern American indigenous folklore, the owl has been celebrated as a symbol of protection and safety. Again, harkening back to the reputation as a fierce hunter and its association with wisdom and knowledge. According to legend, the owl is believed to guard the home and keep it safe from harm, symbolizing safety and security that keeps evil spirits at bay. Again, and seen as like a fierce warrior, right? Again, because of their hunting prowess. The owl's keen senses and sharp talons are like a formidable weapon. And again, sort of because of them being a creature of the night, they are seen in that way. And sometimes also because of that, with the mystery and intrigue, and that they live and hunt in the dark most of the time, sleep during the day. They also have this association with death. They, are a fierce predator of small animals. They're out at night. And so that is also another symbol associated with them. Some have associated them with the afterlife, believing their ability to guide souls to the underworld. It says, for Siberian and Inuit shamans, the owl was a helping spirit and guide, revered for its intuition and unwavering wisdom. And in some cultures, like in parts of medieval Europe or Germany and Eastern Europe, the owl was seen as like a symbol of doom or impending death, that piercing gaze, the hooting, and then often just this idea of birds as a messenger, and then associated with darkness, so being this messenger of the underworld. They believe them to be this perhaps, a messenger of death, like the grim symbol or the grim fate that awaited some people. Let's see what else. I have this book, The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets by Barbara G. Walker. I did look up owls in here. It talks about the owls. Romans called the owl strix or strigus, the same word that meant witch. Greeks said the owl was sacred to Athena, their own version of the ancient Mesopotamian eye goddess, whose staring owl-eyed images have been found throughout the Middle East, especially around the mother city of Mari. The owl was also the totem of Lilith, Blodeuwedd, Aneth, and other versions of the triple goddess of the moon. According to the Christian legend, the owl was one of the 3 disobedient sisters who defied God and was transformed into a bird who never looked at the sun. It is easy enough to see in this idea the shape of the goddess herself and the church's hostility to her. One of the medieval names for the owl was night hag, and it was said to be a witch in bird form. The owl was still associated with witches and the symbols of Halloween. The owl is also a bird of wisdom because it is used to embody the wisdom of the goddess. Certain medieval magic charms apparently sought to use the bird's oracular power against its former mistress, woman. If an owl could be slain and its heart pulled out and laid on the left breast of a sleeping woman, the woman would talk in her sleep and reveal her secrets. This seems to have been a basis of the expression heart-to-heart talk, which meant a woman's secret conversation with her familiar. That is haunting. Other associations I saw were with Kaliak or Kali the crone, Kali, like Kali, the Kaliak was a black mother who founded many races of people and outlived many husbands. She was also a creatress. She made the world, building mountain ranges of stones that dropped from her apron. Scotland was once called Caledonia, the land given by Kali, or Calais, or Kaliak. Scotland, the word, came from Scotia, the same goddess, known to Romans as a dark Aphrodite, to Celts as Scatha or Scythe, Scytha, and to Scandinavians as Skadi. Like the Hindus destroying Kalika, the Kaliak was known as a spirit of disease. One manifestation of her was a famous idol of carved and painted wood kept by an old family in County Cork and described as goddess of smallpox, as diseased persons in India sacrificed to the appropriate incarnation of Kalika. So in Ireland, those afflicted by smallpox sacrificed sheep to this image. It can hardly be doubted that Kalika and Kaliak were the same word. According to various interpretations, Kaliak meant either an old woman or a hag or a nun or a veiled one. The last apparently referred to the goddess's most mysterious manifestation as the future, fate, and death, ever veiled from the sight of men, since no man could know the manner of his own death. In medieval legend, the Kaliak became the Black Queen who ruled a western paradise in the Indies, where men were used in Amazonian fashion for breeding purposes only, then slain. Spaniards called her Khalifa, whose territory was rich in gold, silver, and gems. Spanish explorers later gave her name to the newly discovered paradise on the Pacific shore of North America, which is how the state of California came to be named after Cali. In the present century, Irish and Scottish descendants of the Celtic creatress still use the word Kaliak as a synonym for old woman. Very interesting. And we already talked about Athena, so let's get into some of the... We talked about Athena. There was something else, that there is a type of owl called the little owl that's also known as the owl of Athena or owl of Minerva, which are the same goddess but in Roman and Greek interpretations. And the bird, so it is literally like a small owl, but I just thought it was interesting that it's known as the owl of Athena or Minerva. It's found in temperate and warmer parts of Europe, in Korea, and in North Africa. And yeah, it is part of that original family of owls that I talked about, like the large true owl family, the Strigidae. It is this small critter, small owl, and has different behaviors. There are different types of owls, so sometimes different types of owls have different symbolism. The barred owl is associated as that protective guide, again, partially because of its feather patterns and curiosity and vigilance and protection. The barred owl reminds us to stay curious and use our voice to seek answers. Just as the barred owl uses its keen senses to navigate the night, we too can embrace our innate curiosity as a tool for learning and growth, allowing us to explore new ideas and paths in life. Vigilance is a key trait of the barred owl, which is always alert to its surroundings. The protective symbolism of the barred owl is also reflected in its name, which comes from the bar-like patterns on its feathers. These markings are not a sign of limitation, but rather a strong representation of boundaries. Barred owls are known how to establish and enforce their personal boundaries, showing self-respect and demanding the same from others. And that comes from TanyaCastile.com, talking about barred owl meaning and symbolism as a protective guide. So let's get into some of the more tarot card aspects of owls. So I have 2 decks that depict owls. I also used partingthemists.com and looked up owl on there. So they talk about the deck Native Spirit Oracle by author Denise Lynn and artist Charles McStravick. And there's an owl medicine card in that deck. And I linked the deck in the show notes. But meanings of the owl medicine are wisdom, illuminations, intuition, clairvoyance, and deep insight abound. Go within. Profound majesty and grace is available to you simply by pulling your awareness inward. revered. Ancient knowledge is emerging within you. You know the truth. Trust your perception. You're a truth seeker and a truth sharer. Nurture the feminine spirit within you. In some indigenous cultures, the men say they are afraid of the owl because it represents the power of woman, and they're in awe of or even afraid of the power of women. Other native cultures call the owl the night eagle, for it has the majesty of the eagle but works silently in the darkness of night. In Western cultures, the owl sits on the shoulder of Athena and also Merlin, revealing sacred truths. When this card chooses you, you are at the advent of illumination and transformation. If you want to go on a journey with this card, it says when you're in a meditative state, imagine you have shapeshifted into an owl and that you are soaring silently through the night. Your ability to see, even in darkness, is remarkable. This corresponds with your ability to see the truth even in murky situations in life. And again, that was the Owl Medicine card by the Native in the Native Spirit Oracle. Yeah, and like I said, I have 2 different decks that depict owls that I could find. We have the Sasser-Bito Tarot deck and also the Anima Mundi Tarot deck by Megan Weirer-Wenden. They both depict the High Priestess cards with owls on them. I'm going to look at which specific owl it is. Because in the Anima Mundi deck, they list the Latin name of every animal that they depict. So it says it's a barn owl, which are the ones that have like the white face that looks kind of like they have a white painted heart on their face. And then they sort of have various colors outside of that. They still have a whiteness often, but often also like brown feathers. So for the High Priestess in the Anima Mundi deck, it says it's a barn owl. An owl, a symbol of the Greek goddess Athena, emerges from the inky black, clutching the scrolls of knowledge in her talons. The High Priestess is the ruler of the unconscious and beckons you to pass through the veil and look inward. Listen to your inner voice, rely on your intuition, and pay attention to your dreams and instincts. Embrace your feminine side. So upright, this card is about higher power, accessing the unconscious, potential, mystery, wisdom, and intuition. Which I thought was interesting. In the Sasser-Bito Tarot deck for the High Priestess, it depicts a woman sort of casually sitting in like a flowing dress with an owl sort of like perched on her lap. And I was trying to see if it said anything in the deck guidebook about the owl, but in this deck it says the High Priestess is associated with Artemis, Persephone, and Isis. I know her as the witch. The High Priestess is the archetype of the feminine divine. She is otherworldly, full of magic and mystery, wise and intuitive. She has sound judgment and common sense and is in tune with personal truth. She is serene and introspective. The High Priestess represents love, relationships, and mystical vision. In lieu of the scroll that she is commonly shown holding, she cradles an owl, a symbol of wisdom of the natural world. She is full of secrets and holds on to and dispenses them at will. She can make the impossible possible. She can represent the perfect woman in your life and can also represent being happily independent without a mate. And there's a quote here from Terry Pratchett that says, "A witch ought never be frightened in the darkest forest, because she should be sure in her soul that the most terrifying thing in that forest is her." All right, and then also in the Anima Mundi deck, there's another card that depicts an owl, which is the Queen of Swords. And it's a different kind of owl, so I'm going to look up that card to get the type of owl it is. And again, swords are the air sign in the deck, so it makes sense to have an owl as the air affiliation there. So the one depicted here is a Eurasian eagle owl for the Queen of Swords. It says the Queen of Swords is composed, mature, and intelligent, and able to think clearly without emotion. When faced with an issue, use your head rather than your heart. Excuse me. So upright is about independence, intelligence, rational thought, staying calm, grace, and perceptivity. So a lot of the same traits, right? Intelligence, this sort of like wisdom or rational thought, which is also associated with Athena as like a warrior goddess, a sort of strategy and thinking ahead. And then also this like calm, sort of like nurturing energy, despite being also this like warrior, which is very cool. I like that there. Okay, so those are our kind of 3 owl cards for today. I'm going to go ahead and dive in and see what the cards have to say today. What message do owls have for us? What are we supposed to learn? How do we embody our intuition and wisdom of self, our independence, and follow and sort of honor our shadowy, darker, divine feminine parts of self? And I'm going to pull from The Citadel, a Fantasy Oracle by Fen Inkwright. I'm feeling called to use this deck right now, so we're going to go with that. I'm going to give it a quick shuffle and see what message the owls have for us today. Okay. All right, I've picked the Orator, Communication and Confidence. It says, doubting yourself is only holding you back. It's okay if you take a little longer to think about how to voice your needs and desires. Writing a script of how to ask for these things might even benefit you here. Be confident in taking up a space and letting your voice be heard. And if you think about an orator, right, that is like someone that is telling you a thing in a theater. So this card talks about the beginning, sort of setting the scene. The seats of the theater curve away on either side of you, filled with a rapt audience waiting for the performance to begin. On the stage, a single figure clears their throat and begins their soliloquy. Even when they're not performing, the orator speaks with complete confidence. They've never shied away from a public stage, but they're so used to reading from a script that sometimes they find themselves tongue-tied when it comes to thinking for themselves. So again, it's sort of like trust in yourself. It's okay if you take longer to think about how to voice your needs and desires. Sometimes it helps to even write a script and to be confident in taking up space and letting your voice be heard. Well, thank you, owls, for that message. And in closing, if you'd like to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, click on the link in the show notes to indicate your interest in getting more info. We'll be working together for 12 weeks of calls and journaling to discover what happens when we want to transform our lives through the tarot. Links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday, for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com, with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.